The content shared today on rBeatz.com is not intended to be a substitute for professional advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Our guest is not providing clinical care, and our discussion should be viewed for entertainment only. Always seek the advice of your mental health professional or other qualified health providers with any questions you may have regarding your condition or symptoms. Please refer to the description for hotlines if you are experiencing a crisis.
Let me just introduce a special guest, Susan Shafer. She is a licensed mental health counselor who is specialized in working with adults with anxiety related to unresolved trauma. She is an accredited certified EFT practitioner, also known as tapping. Susan is also a certified yoga instructor, which is the perfect trifecta: mind, body, and tapping. With that, John Kasana's none of these things. With further ado, let's dive in.
That sums up my credentials. Exactly.
Yeah,
right.
basically. I'm like, you are the opposite of Susan. Just kidding.
Thank you for having me on.
So right off the bat, Susan, you and I were talking the other day, and I thought we're trying to figure out like where we're going to go with this and how we're going to make something cohesive. And it was occurring to me that a lot of people probably wonder if AI, artificial intelligence, your computer, basically the internet, well spoken, is a substitute for psychology, a substitute for an actual psychologist. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm a little biased, obviously. I think AI is very useful for many reasons. I think when we need information on something, that it can actually help individuals who need something right away. So let's say if they notice that they're having symptoms or they want some kind of clarity in the moment, and that clarity is going to help to maybe even ease on some of their anxiety or stress to get that kind of information, I think AI could be very helpful. Also, AI is going to have a huge database of knowledge to be able to pour right back to the person. Where I think AI is not going to replace psychology or therapy, mental health therapy in particular, is the relationship. What makes therapy so special and so important is the relationship between the therapist and client. And it takes time to build that rapport. It takes time to really be with the clients and to understand what direction they want to move in or how they want to move towards their goals. And there's so much within a therapy session that is just more than spitting back information. It's that I don't think AI would be able to really replace.
AI agrees with you. Exactly. So I asked AI, can a person develop a relationship with AI? To your question, it says, well, yeah, a person can develop a relationship with AI, although the nature and the depth of that relationship would differ significantly from a traditional human-to-human relationship. Relationships with AI can range from basic interaction with voice assistants like Siri and Alexa to more complex connections with sophisticated AI systems. And it goes on to tell you some why. And it sums it up by saying it's important to remember that while AI can simulate aspects of a relationship, it lacks true consciousness, emotions, and subjective experience. The relationship is inherently one-sided with the AI responding based on programmed algorithms and data analysis. And therefore, while interactions with AI can be enjoyable and provide a sense of connection, they do not possess the depth and complexity of human-to-human relationships.
Yay. There we go. Podcast over.
Done. She did it.
Done. That was easy. What next?
So we were talking about some news that were on Tuesday, and one of the big story on Tuesday was the Russian coup, or attempted Russian coup, and that led us to think about, like, if the people from the opposition were to get a hold of nuclear weapons and things, that could be a big disaster for the whole world. And then that got to, and I know your specialty is helping people overcome traumas and stuff like this. So I asked you about how you help people who have these sort of global concerns that they can't really do anything about. It could be something as major as nuclear war, or it's maybe a little less so, like climate change, or even something simple like who the president's going to be, even though they personally don't really have any control over that. And you told me a couple interesting things. Can you share those again?
Yeah, sure. And the fears that people experience like that are very real and valid. And when we are experiencing a type of fear that's beyond our control, it can also lead to feeling very powerless and helpless. So when I'm working with clients that are experiencing these types of fears, first and foremost, I think that helping people to feel a little more grounded and to kind of get back into the present moment. So a lot of times when we are fearful of something, our anxiety might like to kick in and pull us into a future and start what ifing. And here comes a spiral of a lot of intense energy. So first I always think is let's kind of explore what's going on within the mind and body. And how intense is this? Where do you feel it in the body? And then it's maybe a combination of skills, whether it's breathing techniques or tapping or other cognitive behavior therapies like thought therapies to help bring the client back into a more relaxed state. So then once we get kind of within the body and mind a little more relaxed and settled, then as a way to address the very valid fear or concern is maybe narrowing it down into more specifics or even more local. So for example, if we're talking about a fear of global warming and climate change that people can feel very powerless about, but is it possible that they can gain their power by putting their efforts into something locally? Helping with an organization, reducing the use of plastics, something along those lines that is realistic for them to do every day or daily to feel like they are contributing to a part of changing the fear that they may be experiencing.
Do you find a lot of those people are just naturally pessimists anyway? I'm just curious. I mean, because I actually talked to a guy and I gave him a book I thought would make him do better, called The Power of Positive Thinking. And he said, what the hell good is that going to do? It was just like, I don't know. like how do you change someone? And we all know people like that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, people have got to want to make that change. So typically when people come to therapy, they are seeking a change. Mm-hmm. Maybe the change that they're first trying to work with might be a little more surface, but then as we go a little deeper and the person develops a little more self-awareness and we get into more of the thoughts and the inner belief system, then maybe there's a little more acknowledgement of what maybe needs to change. So, first thing is someone's got to want to make the change in order to change. And then to go back to your first question, I don't know. I know a lot of positive-minded individuals that struggle with fear because fear, everybody has fear. It's an emotion. It's, and it's not wrong. It's a valid feeling. Sometimes it can bring up irrational thoughts or irrational fears if we dwell or kind of continue spiraling into something, but everyone experiences fear. I think even as positive individuals.
Let me chime in. So you were talking about ways to cope with certain, anxiety or stressors. And you mentioned two things that stuck out to me. One was breathing and another was tapping. So, that was a good breath. That was good.
No,
just actually.
What is tapping? I mean, I don't know. John was asking, well, he was like, is it like tapping on the counter or what is it? And how does breath help with anxiety? Like, how do those two things kind of explain that to me a little bit?
Sure. So tapping is technically called emotional freedom techniques, and it's self-applied acupressure on different meridian points around the face and upper body. And so tapping on these pressure points helps to alleviate the intensity of unpleasant emotions. It can also help to regulate the nervous system. It can help individuals who are experiencing maybe like feeling blocked or stuck in an emotion or even in a thought process. So it's really it's been around for a very long time, but we're hearing a lot more about it recently in mainstream media, which has been pretty exciting. So that's tapping, and then breathing exercises. So the breath is, I like to tell clients it's a direct tool to your nervous system. So, and you always have your breath. You are always hopefully taking breaths. And so by noticing your breath, slowing down the breath, there's numerous different breathing exercises, but bringing your awareness to it, helping to slow down your breathing can help to regulate, help a person feel a little more grounded, feel a little more at ease.
Every time
some tension in the body.
Every time I tell someone to take a deep breath, they get even more angry. So it doesn't work always, does it? No, I don't know.
Maybe it's the approach.
Yeah, John, I think it is. I really do. I think it's the approach.
How's that being delivered?
Take a deep breath. Oh my God, it's only a glass sculpture or something. So is it the act of doing it, the physical act of doing it, or does it change something cognitively in your brain? How does that work?
Tapping, you're talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, tapping. Which one are we talking? Tapping?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little of both. So I believe, the mind and body are connected. So when we're tapping on different points, we're actually tapping on different points around the face and upper body. And these are meridians, which are little channels throughout your system. So as we're tapping, we're also stating what the person's feeling, why they're feeling it, and following it up with an affirmation, a believable affirmation. So for example, if someone was saying, I am experiencing a lot of fear right now because of something I heard on the news. So we might locate where the person's really feeling that energy of fear, that feeling of fear, and then begin to tap, even though I'm feeling this fear and I feel it in my head because I saw something on the news today, right here, right now, I know I'm okay. Or I still accept this is who I am. But having that believable statement, and then we begin the process of tapping. So it's actually a little combination of somatic, therapy, touch therapy, as well as cognitive therapy.
What about tapping someone? I'm sorry.
What's that?
No, I was going to say, what about tapping someone else?
No, John, you have to tap yourself. I've done tapping, and Susan's led me through a few practices, things that I've worked through. And I will say it helps. And it's not just like tapping random parts. Like she said, it is meridian areas, but you basically you break things down. You repeat a lot of things, and then she'll ask, where's your anxiety now? From 1 to 10. And from my experience, it's always gone down significantly. And it's really helpful, and you can do it anywhere. You can do it while you're driving. I mean, especially because you have a Tesla, it drives itself. But, maybe at a stoplight, it's
people say we go.
You can do it anywhere. I am one for tapping. So I think if anybody, who would be a good candidate, Susan? Who do you think? Anybody? I don't know.
I think anyone who is noticing that they are feeling a lot of unpleasant emotions, and maybe what they're doing hasn't been working, and they feel that as though that it has been something that they've been dealing with for a long time.
Oh, maybe.
John, I think you need tapping.
I misread the whole thing, and I thought it said napping helps with that. And it did. And surprisingly, it did. I took a big nap and I woke up and felt much better.
Well, rest is best. I mean, rest is important too. So let's not forget how important getting good sleep is.
Do you think sometimes people need something to feel like there has to be something more than just getting, there's no way I can just get my mind off of something or change my mind about something or stop worrying about something. But if I have to physically do something, whether it's tapping or anything, something specific that someone directs me to, and I don't mean to belittle this at all. I don't know anything about this, except I know you're a professional and you do. Mm-hmm. But in my mind, I know sometimes people will go to they'll go see somebody and somebody who's not a professional, and that person, they're looking at a crystal ball or something and say, you need to go home and drink 2 glasses of water and turn the second one upside down when the sun goes down. And if you did that, the next day you're going to wake up and you're going to feel a lot better. And you wake up the next day and you feel a lot better. And you're like, wow, this worked. But tapping it's a physical function. But oh my God, I'm reading this tapping thing as I'm talking to you. And it even says common tapping points include the side of the hands, like a karate chop.
Why don't you show us the meridians, Susan? Show us the tapping. Yeah, that would be helpful.
Sure. So the first tapping point, we could do it all together.
Yeah, let's do it.
The first tapping point is on the side of the hand. So this is where we acknowledge. So yeah, like the meaty part of your hand. There you go. And this is where we acknowledge the feeling, where it is in the body. We say a little statement here. The next tapping point is at the very top.
I'm so sorry. What was it? What would be a good statement?
Well, let's see. Are you feeling it a certain way right now? Is there anything that you're noticing within your own body that is unpleasant or maybe a little more intense than you would like it to be?
Yes. Oh, I need to tell you what it is. Oh, I'm probably like a little bit warm in here because it's a small room. There's a lot of people in the room. So if I tap, is this going to make it cooler for me? I don't know. I'm asking.
Well, is that warm feeling bringing any kind of emotion, any kind of unpleasant emotion for you?
Maybe just a mild phobia that I might start sweating, and if I do, I might have a little ring around here, and then Chelsea will move away from me.
So he's getting a little anxious.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
he's getting anxiety.
A little anxious. Mm-hmm. Okay, so if you were to just kind of guess or rate that feeling of anxiety or anxiousness right now, 0 to 10, about what would it be?
2.
Okay, that's low, but we can keep working with this. Do you notice that feeling anywhere in your body?
The anxiety or or sweating?
No, the anxiety.
No, because I gave it too low of a score. But if I did, it would probably be right here, maybe a little bit
in your chest.
Yeah.
In the center of your chest. Okay, so a setup statement might sound something like, and you can repeat this if you want, because this is how we lead it in a session. The practitioner or therapist will guide the client. So even though I feel this anxiety.
Even though I feel this anxiety. Tap, tap,
in my chest.
In my chest. Tap, tap, tap.
Because right now I'm sitting in a warm room. And I'm afraid I'm going to get sweaty armpits. Even though I feel this way. And now see if this is true for you, John. I still deeply and completely accept myself.
Yeah, I still completely and deeply accept myself. I'm kind of shallow.
That's great.
This is making me hotter.
So we would repeat this. A couple more times.
The whole thing?
We would go to, but for time's sake, we'll go to the top of the head.
It's like a Lutheran sermon.
Top of your head now, John.
Oh, okay. I'm tapping it?
Yep, tapping your head.
Yep, you're going to tap it. Yep, right at the top
with
here.
With both of my hands? All right.
I don't want you to ruin your hair. And you'll say, this anxiety in my chest.
This anxiety in my chest?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then we're going to go to the top of the eyebrows. This anxiety in my chest.
This anxiety in my chest.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then follow your brow line to the outer eye. This anxiety in my chest.
This anxiety in my chest.
Mm-hmm. You might have to move your glasses for this one. Let's go under the eye. 2 or 3 fingers right under the eye. This anxiety in my chest.
This anxiety in my chest.
Mm-hmm. And then under the nose. This anxiety in my chest.
This anxiety in my chest.
Tip of the chin. This anxiety in my chest.
This anxiety in my chest.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We're going to go to the collarbone. We got 2 more pressure points right around the shoulder area, underneath the shoulders. This anxiety in my chest.
This anxiety in my chest.
Mm-hmm. And then last one, under the arm, right at the base of the armpit.
No, it's going to smell.
Oh.
The anxiety in my chest.
And that's when the breathing exercises come in.
I feel better.
Yes. Then you take a big
Then you take a big inhale, John. Just breathe it in.
I like it. So
it kind of worked. It fell down to a 1.5. This is good.
Yeah. And so you do that a few times.
Tapping. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
So back to that was actually a pretty good topic right there, because I never heard of this, and apparently this is a trending thing and it's pretty popular. What got you into this, by the way?
Well, at the time I was working with children and adolescents, and I was doing a lot of yoga and movement with them in our sessions, and someone had talked to me about tapping points, and I just started looking into it, and I took a real quick weekend training. And at that point I was like, oh, okay, this is great. This will work. And then as time went on, I just fell in love with it. I saw how it really helped the little ones. And then I just dove into a more intense training and certification. So
now when you say little ones,
not to mention that I also noticed in my own life, how helpful it's been.
How old are the little ones?
The little ones. At that time I was working with students from kindergarten to 8th grade.
Because if I went to a therapist, which I did when I was a kid briefly, and I came home and my parents upset me and I started doing, my dad would go, what the hell are you doing? You're an idiot. He would probably send me to a therapist for doing that, for tapping around everywhere, trying to figure out what's wrong with me. Do any parents ever say, this is ridiculous? What are we doing here?
Well, I believe in educating families. So anytime I'm bringing a skill to one of the kids, I definitely try to have the parents involved and give them a heads up as to what we might be doing. So
are they receptive?
Yeah, I think and honestly, most parents are whatever's going to help my child feel better. So, and then it's also a good gateway for them to explore it for themselves, because if they're being a support to their child at home, they may be helping them through the tapping or even using some of the skills themselves and role modeling it. So, yeah, that's a good thing.
What if you tap your little brother or sister, like when you're back in the car and you're like,
no,
that
would just be annoying.
It always made me feel better a little bit.
I think that's going to increase the
anxiety.
Then my parents get anxiety and they start tapping their heads and stuff because they're mad about those things.
That would be what we call the non-example. The non-example.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. All right, so we're back in the process. So we're reading news, and there's a lot of stuff that gives people anxiety, and tapping is a good mechanism. You pointed out to people. And by the way, I didn't even look this up. Is there anybody who says this is a bunch of bunk and people shouldn't be tapping all over the place, or there's no harm in it?
Well, there's a lot of research that supports it. So the research is out there, and it does demonstrate that it does help in many areas, with cravings, with fears, with trauma. So the research is there. But yes, definitely. Is everyone receptive to it? There's some people that aren't really, it's not their thing, but I don't think there's a one size fits all either for addressing situations. So if when people come to therapy, that's why it's important to find the right therapist that implements the right modalities that are going to give the right skills, because everyone's unique. So
let's talk about that for a second, because therapy, when I was a kid, there was a stigma to therapy. There probably still is a little bit, but there was a big one then. And and sometimes people said, oh, I've been to therapists, I've been to 100 of them, and nobody's helped me or something. How do you know? How do you find the right one? What is the right one? I know obviously it's different for everyone, but like how can you sort of shortcut that, or can you to say, you know what? Is it true? My perception is someone like me would want to go to someone like me because they would understand me more. Does that make sense?
I mean, I think, I hear what you're saying, that I think it depends on each person, but some clients want to go to someone who may be a similar age or a similar culture, and they feel that they can really be seen or be understood because of that. When it comes to searching for a therapist, it is a relationship. So I'm a big believer in taking time to ask friends, ask family, ask for referrals. When you get referrals, read web pages, ask for a 15-minute consult call. I've talked about this many times before on Instagram, just knowing what questions to ask your therapist. And having a 15-minute call just to see if there's some kind of dialogue there, a rapport that's already being established. So
I think that's the difference.
Finding out more.
Oh, sorry. No, but I think that's the difference between a human connection and AI. It's like, do you fire AI if they're not giving you the proper, like, if they're not being receptive enough, or if they're not using the modalities like Susan had said? I think that's the kicker of it all, that there is this, this difference between AI and AI is not going to lead you through tapping, I don't think, because they're just, I think we're onto something here.
Yeah.
So
AI is not going to be able to see facial expressions, body language. I mean, I know a lot of virtual therapy right now, I may only be seeing my clients waist up. But we can also tell if a client is moving from the waist up. Also, we can see if, there's other body language signs going on as well, which I think AI, they can kind of see. I don't know. Are we at that place yet where little robots coming up to have therapy sessions?
Susan, what are some, if I was thinking of, I have like a problem, what are my steps, or where do I go? Give me a little bit about your information. Where can we find you? Tapping. I can tap.
So if anyone's ever looking for mental health services, it's important to work with someone who is licensed in your state.
Okay.
So that therapist does not have to live in your state, but they need to be licensed in your state. So that's the first step, is finding a licensed therapist who is licensed in your state. And there's numerous platforms out there, Psychology Today, goodtherapy.com, Therapy Den, just to name a few, where therapists actually have a profile, and you can search for therapists by zip code, by insurance, if they take insurance, by gender, by modalities, by specialties. So that's one starting point. So now if we're talking about doing something like EFT tapping, which some people just use as a coaching service, coaching can be provided nationwide. You don't have to be licensed in a state. So there's EFT International, where you can find EFT practitioners. But I'm licensed in New Jersey and North Carolina. So my website is simply shafer.services. And both those coaching and clinical work are listed on there.
We picked two states where people need a lot of help, so that's really good for you. Business must be booming for you. So I think our time is up, and I think you probably have more sessions because of the states you're licensed in. Susan, I want to thank you for joining us on the RBeatz Radio Network, and we'll do this again. Yeah.
Thank you, Susan.
Yeah, thanks so much. It was a pleasure.
All right, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.